prophetic outlook. Crooks run the whole world, and the Dow just fell. Crap rules the airwaves. All your best plans stall. The air is dirty, and you don't feel well. Your wife won't listen. Friends no longer call. Sad songs from youth no longer cast a spell. Cancer research has run into a wall. Some inflated hack just won the Nobel. You witness clear signs of decline and fall. The neighbors are cold and your house won't sell. Your cat has bad teeth. Your paychecks feel small. Maybe you're really sick. It's hard to tell. Up ahead, traffic has slowed to a crawl. The world didn't just start going to hell. You just noticed for the first time, that's all. That's my first book, 60 Sonnets. Since people are doing cat poems, perhaps I ought to trot one out. Okay. There it is, 66. Sorry to keep you on. The only thing worse than watching someone look for the right page is being the person who's doing it. This is, I didn't flag it because I didn't think I was going to read it. Okay. A legend about cats. They made Alexander just a bit tense. He could rule the world, but not a tabby. Julius Caesar could bash his way through Gaul, but faint if a lynx pissed near his tents. Genghis Khan hacked a gruesome dynasty across Eurasia, but he would fall from his horse at the sight of a sleeping cat. Napoleon never won for players he couldn't control, despised all felines. Even Mussolini and Hitler, who sat on brief empires, still had to say their prayers when forced to face off with the tiger's kind, those who perfected the art of the tormentor long ago, purring great long dreams of gore. You know, I'm kind of excited because I get to wear, I've started wearing reading glasses recently, and I always, thought I'd like to have glasses just for the sort of dramatic effect of whipping them off, or sort of, or doing that thing like, De Niro, like, let's take a look at this. So, but last night at dinner, my colleagues were saying, oh, but you shouldn't wear those glasses. They make it look like you should be sitting at a typewriter. I was like, but why is that a bad thing? I kind of like that aspect. Okay, this is a Philadelphia poem. This is Green Line, West Philadelphia. That's referring to the trolley. It's a subway in Center City. It goes above ground at 40th Street. Soaked snow gums and gems the trolley's glass pane. I'm bundled inside, ignoring my book. Aquarium heat shields me from the white outside. Muffled squeal of rails. Dull glow drained from a dead day. I pause, and I think back. Through the trolley's fast food perfume and wax light, to a small occurrence the night before. Slicing lemon, a raw curve of choir gold flicked up and spun behind the greasy stove. I went on cutting, but now it comes more plainly to me, enclosed from the black cold. At home, the blonde moon rots in its rust grove. Summer's wet light furred in that damp recess, cradled now by slime, fostered by darkness. That's my second book, called All of You on the Good Earth. The one that Bob mentioned is Caligula. It came out last fall. And I was informed by my publisher on Friday that it's been nominated for something called the Poets Prize in New York, which is one more. Thank you. It's just one more thing to worry about. It's just now I'm going to get all competitive. I don't want to do that. It's all about the poetry. That stuff doesn't. You know, I was in New York City last night. And I was talking to Tom Wolfe, the writer, and I am a fan of his books, and I've enjoyed them. I think he's written some amazing books. And you know, when I meet older writers, I usually ask them what is the secret to the good life. When I asked Donald Hall, he had a good answer, which is to have something you love and that you want to achieve, but never quite get there. So you have to keep working every day toward the perfect poem or whatever it is you're trying to do, and it steals you. I asked Tom Wolfe, what is the secret to the good life? He says, I'm supposed to be praised all the time. And I said, well, you are marvelous, sir. I think you're an amazing writer. He's like, yes, that's it. So I'm going to instruct everyone I know to praise me constantly and see if it helps. It probably would feel good, right? This is called in-school suspension. I don't know if schools still have in-school suspension. Perhaps some of the younger people in the audience can tell me if they still had that when you were in high school. In-school suspension. We sweated and dozed like barbarians in a deer hide tent at the height of spring's roasting heat, crowded in for various affronts, crimes, and faults. When one among us was handed from the disciplinarian's office a pink paper slip listing things he'd done that were deemed truly nefarious, to us hilarious, and saying he was expelled altogether from school, he heaved the heavy 1950s stapler from our minder's desk and hammered the paper to his head. The first two staples rebounded and clicked on the tiles. We were almost relieved when the third clinched, pressed deeper by his thumb, and seized subcutaneous hold. This caper did it. We were, for once, astounded. With the form draped over one eye, he smiled for us, turning slowly in the humidity. A satanic clown. Our own Spartacus for a sparkling second we won't forget. We roared and roared in our hot galley, piled up laughs till they hid any stab of pity. We all knew he wouldn't even be missed, as, clutched by the wrist, he loosed one last threat and was hauled from the room, and the door boomed shut. We never saw him again. One by one, we turned our faces downward and resumed, with the dust he'd raised, churning in the sun. Thank you. We had a mention of a moose head earlier, which I thought was pretty funny. It was a good poem. So I'm going to read a poem called Moose. Now, I don't know if any of you have visited the Academy. Is it the Academy of Natural Sciences on Logan Circle? Is that right? Well, they have the stuffed animals, and it's amazing because I always loved the moose because when I was a little boy and we visited, and this is before interactive stuff or digital stuff, you just went and looked at the stuffed animals, and you had to use your imagination. But I loved the moose because he was by far the biggest of the stuffed animals that they had in there. And I visited again probably 25, 30, probably 30 years or more since I had been there. And I went, and there was that moose. They have all this new stuff for the kids that's very high-tech and cutting edge. But if you go back far enough there, in his little corner, there is the moose. He hasn't changed at all. And it's like, kind of like a big fuck you to everybody. Like, this moose ain't going anywhere. And so this poem was published in the Philadelphia Inquirer, and it kind of like, I think it resonated a little bit in the region, because I heard from a friend of a friend of a friend that person's mother, who would have no idea who I am in real life. Is that someone you knew?
That's my friend, yeah.
Yeah, it's his mother had cut it out and put it up on the fridge with a magnet, so take that, digital age. This is Moose. It's been years since I first leaned upon the glass, left my fingerprints, craned to see past my own reflected shape. Your shoulders high and chest a hillside, antlers an alpine pass. Unafraid, somehow friendly, yet so vast. You still startle, filling half the false sky. Through my life you've stood stuffed, sad but stately. I wanted to wander the hills and glades of your painted diorama. You tower in the same black forests I've traveled lately. And you nod, snorting, chewing a flower, as if you never felt the hooks and blades, and were both, a moment, unhunted, unhurt in ourselves. Are very weird things if you think about them. Like, it's best to not really give much thought to how creepy mirrors are. And we have all these superstitions around them, and like the 7 years bad luck if you break one. And yet, you do have to sometimes mirrors have to be thrown out. And I took this mirror out that I had been hauling around from place to place, city to city for years. I was like, yeah, the frame's kind of coming off. It's like a sort of like tall one that you look into for your full body. And I leaned it against the trash, and then I sort of turned around and thought, this is kind of weird throwing a mirror away. And I turned around, and there I was in the trash, reflected back, like my whole body, like I was throwing myself away. So this is called On Leaving an Old Mirror Out at the Curb, if you couldn't guess. What do I call you at the end? Witness, mimic, tyrant of the departed years. At times flatterer, others still life, ghost, pure pool, twin, ludicrous door, or clearness leading nowhere, yet alluring as a frontier. Great eye, roommate, spy, ominous, silent host. Despite all you've witnessed and returned, you recall nothing in your absolute present. Silent movie, brittle glass bed, leaning gurney. Knowing only what is shown, nothing learned. What occurs but never what it has meant, will be, or was. Forgive this last journey into the earth, where you'll be bent and crack, where you'll shatter but be serene as stone, free from vanities that bathe the bone, razors of cold light, lodged blindly in black.